engineers, we're producers as well, but sometimes you get hired as an engineer, but you just end up being a producer by default because nobody else is doing it, and you want to make a good product. And you want people leaving happy, and if they get a better product, they're probably going to leave happy. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while a band will come through that doesn't need one. That just really knows what, that actually can self-produce, but that's few and far.
It really is that rare.
Between.
I've noticed, because there's it's almost impossible to be objective. You really have to revere folks like Prince or whomever that can actually perform and produce in a very competent sort of way. That objectivity it seems impossible.
Well, I think that is such a huge thing, and also just as a producer, and John sort of touched on this too, is like your role is going to be so different with every band. Like some bands don't need you arranging the music because they've got it, they're great musicians, they've thought it through. Maybe they need one suggestion here or there, or maybe you can be like, hey, why don't we use this guitar amp because it's going to sound cooler, or let's try this pedal. Or like you can be a sonic producer maybe, and then sometimes your role is just to be like, that's a great take, done, or let's do another take because you were dragging or whatever it is. Yeah. And then sometimes your producer is you're getting in there and arranging all the songs.
Playing at half the instruments.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we'll produce records that John will play drums and bass and guitar and keyboards and do everything.
We know we know why the members of the band get uncomfortable when someone's going to replace them, but there's an art, there's a particular skill to playing in the studio. That isn't the same thing as playing in the band. That isn't the same thing. There's quite clearly, quite honestly, the musicians that do amazing stage work, don't necessarily translate, to great session work.
Yeah, and then that's the role as the producer, is to like understanding the instruments enough to be able to guide them to, be able to say, hey, why don't you play like this? Or as a guitar player, be like, try this guitar pick, and it changes everything. And there's these little small things that you learn from doing it so much that as a player, and since John's like a great bass player but also a great drummer, he can sit down on the drum kit and play it for somebody. But he also knows how to tune a drum kit really well, so he's going to be like, hey, give me a second, I'm going to tune the snare drum, and all of a sudden something sounds great, or fix a problem. And I think that's one of the things, is if they're not as studio friendly, then they can help them out.
I think this is really skills in common with other great producers that I've known, is that they're very multi-talented, very, very know enough about most of the instruments in the session to be almost able to pick them up and demonstrate if necessary.
And that's also really important, just making people feel comfortable when they walk in and be like, oh, hey, you're playing that guitar, that's great, I love those guitars. And because we're just talking about the technical side, but
totally wanted to get into the psychology of getting a band to perform, artists to be able to perform like that.
Yeah, because
they want to feel like they're just hanging out with some other musicians or whatever. Then they play great when it's like, oh, cool, you've got what year is that jazz bass? Oh, I have a '76 jazz bass, awesome. And then all of a sudden you're on their side. Yeah. You're not like, oh, is that passive? Or like some weird, I don't know what engineers think about, it's like, you're not putting them like, oh, maybe he doesn't like my bass, or maybe he's like, and even being like, oh, we got some, that's cool about yours. We got, Aaron's P bass and my jazz bass are in the closet, so you can grab them if you want to check out some other.
I suspect you've heard the students address to the crowd here for a little bit, that you've heard the professors talk about this and probably downplayed the importance of what we're really talking about here, the psychology of the recording session. They're not even telling you half of it. I met with a friend this morning who told me about working with very difficult performers, very difficult artists, and actually was having so much trouble dealing with these people that were just total divas, total prima donna people. Then I said, well, how do I solve this problem? He went and found a book. How to work with difficult people. And he said it changed his whole outlook on it. It literally changed the way. And I could point the phrase, it's really, even though the client is wrong, sometimes it's totally okay for the client to be right. For them to, you're right, that those two guitars are out of tune. They take them, go tune them again. It's a 5-minute distraction, but you've given the person some space, some acknowledged their worth and their involvement.